will be joining us remotely.
Stay home.
Stay home. And Kate, we know, is not able to join us as well. So we actually have a lot to do. Richard is here. We'll move Richard up on the agenda so that we can, it's our first use of our guidelines for temporary art. Interesting to temporary installation. That would be easier to talk about. And as we have a lot of catch up, I know since we didn't have a November meeting, it really seems like a long time. And maybe it wasn't wise to not have a November meeting. Let's see. So let's have a motion first to accept the minutes of October 29th.
Motion.
Beth, seconded by Ernie. Any corrections?
Am I allowed to do it because I wrote them?
Yes, you are.
I did a good job. Side comment.
Any corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, a few updates. We, Ernie and I needed to give the city clerk dates so they can get them on the calendar. So we put, and you'll get the invites from Sean for the dates, but we stayed with the fourth Wednesday, with the exception again of November and December because of the holidays. So we moved those up. If you would look through your calendars on those, and if there's any one like the summer meetings where we're not going to have a quorum, we can put for another date. But you could just flag us even next time if any of these are really problematic. A few updates. Beth, you've updated the public art inventory. Do you want to?
Yes, so we have 85 pieces of public art in the inventory that have been researched and described. I reordered them a little bit and I created a historic section. There are 6 that have been identified for research, plus the NEBI, which is not up yet. And I created a slide that said, or a page that said, identify in process, research in process, or identify. So people who signed up for 6, if you need me to send those out as a reminder, I'm happy to do that or send them to Sean. I sent it over to Stephanie right before Thanksgiving, so it might have gotten lost in the process. I did go on to look when I looked at the flash vote because I wanted to make sure that was updated. It hasn't been updated yet, so
Okay.
just a takeaway.
Actually, that's good because I actually have a few other seconds if you're up for adding anything. And Beth has also done a look through of our web pages with some suggestions for updating. I think we all know we want to bring that public art inventory more into prominence. We have some additional art pieces that can be added to the lists. Some text that explains a little bit more about process. Temporary art guidelines need to go on there. So all of these things will go to Stephanie then for updating the website. I wonder if people should look at their bios just before.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you can email that just in case you want to change anything in your bio before. It'll take a, to get this done. So I'm sure there's time to do that.
Yeah, send it to me or through Sean. I'll update it.
The next one I put, I heard from Todd Henley this week, the recreation director. They are ready to install the button project at Community Campus. They're having a sign made that includes the same information that was done at the dedication. And Todd's question, and I'll put it out to you. Do you think we should do a little rededication, invite Sarah Haskell? I see you saying yes, Robin.
I think Sarah would really appreciate that.
Side is there?
I don't think there's any downside, and I think it would be nice to invite the other tenants of the community campus so they all know it's there and why it's there. And we had such a great turnout at the rec center for the Judy Schubert portrait. It's standing room only, so.
There's a lot of people who live here now who
wouldn't
it's
have known.
been a long time since she created that, you
Yeah.
know. So it would be a nice reminder or introduction.
Good.
Isn't it taking minutes?
Nancy is
Okay.
taking minutes, and you weren't here when Nancy volunteered to do it for an entire year.
I did. I'll take it back because now I had a year off. I'm well rested.
I will be your backup if you need a
Yeah.
break.
I will be doing it via Zoom for January, February, and March. So just speak up.
It's shameless of you, but really, I mean, when I was nervous about doing it, I thought, oh, this isn't so bad. This is easy.
It's not so
Okay.
So
Those
plenty
two
of
big
backup.
bad.
Our balance from the Ruth Blay donation that we got an update from the finance department on where we are. You'll see, we paid for the maquette for Nebby. We paid for print materials for Nebby that we could distribute, and all the expenses for the dedication of Spiraling Serenity. Vito's expenses coming. So that was very helpful to get us a jump start on all of those things. And we have a small balance. I mean, what's useful about that is we don't have to go to the trustees of trust funds, so we don't have to wait for a month to get it done. We have one vacancy, and I did this week talk to one candidate who's putting in her, but we're open to other candidates as well. So if you know people, with the council starting again in January, we can make sure that it takes, remember, 2 meetings even after the mayor makes a decision. So the earliest we would have someone is for February.
I mentioned it to somebody, but she hasn't really gotten back to me, and I know she's busy with kids and stuff, but
Believe it or not, it's time for an annual report. We did an annual report in February last year to the council. It's required of us every year. I put it here because I'd like to see if we can draft something in the next couple of weeks, send it out to you all before the January meeting. And then at the January meeting, you can add feedback to it. And that was very helpful last time. There were things that we forgot to include. So, but that's a written report that we do. And those are the updates. You'll see we'll talk a lot more about what's happening with Nebby. We'll debrief Spiraling Serenity, the flash vote. But since Richard is here, I thought we could move that up and talk about the request for the temporary art installation.
Hi, I'm Joanne Coles.
And Joanne, the way this works for the two of you is we are charged with making a recommendation to the city council, like for where it would be placed, that it will be placed, where it would be placed. And so what we would ask you to do is to talk to us a little bit about it. We'll ask you questions. And then you're welcome to stay while we talk through our guidelines that help us craft a memo to the council. What we highlight, we might make a recommendation about placement or signage or something like that, and that goes into that recommendation as well. That goes to the next council meeting, which like second week in January.
Correct.
So like that.
Yes.
And then, they haven't disapproved anything that we recommend. But they are the ones who then officially place it in a public spot. So that's how it goes. And you're the first, we developed some temporary art guidelines, but you're the first ones that have come to us with something that isn't like permanent installation. And yes, does anybody else need an agenda? Yeah, okay. So we'll turn it over to you, Richard and Joanne, to just talk to us about this and talk to us about where it might go, how it got created, and we'll ask you questions.
Okay. Stan. So my name is Richard Haynes. I am a local. I moved into Portsmouth in 1989. I was stationed here in the Air Force during the Vietnam War. In 1968, I arrived and I left in 1970, the Vietnam trip. Got out of the military in 72, met my wife at 1973. Our honeymoon was at the Anchorage Inn. So I know, a wonderful place to visit. Visited for 16 years, and a gentleman in the Holiday Inn once said to me, why don't you guys just move here? My wife and I looked at each other and say, why not? Right? We had 2 kids at the time. Now we have 3, but we decided it was a great place to raise a family. So I've been here since 1989. In that 1989 is where my art really sort of Vaughn Gallery. I don't know if you remember Vaughn
yeah,
Gallery on
yeah.
Islington Street. The Vaughn family, I was in the military with them working in the dental clinic with her husband. And they saw my work and she wanted to exhibit my work. And eventually it really sort of sparked.
Yeah, we should have bought it back then.
Yeah, you should have.
You know something, I'm not the. Yes, you should have. And people did, you know, and it was $250 and $650. Now it's $5,000 to $25,000 a painting. Alrighty. And the Courier Museum, I think about 2 years ago, it was $180,000 bill, 101, but I gave him a nice discount. But the work has really sort of grown. So the thing for me, though, my work is about how do we bring us together as human beings rather than color, right? How does that happen? How does it work? If we really understand the history of what was going on in America, how we were literally separated, figure colonial Virginia, half of colonial Virginia in the 16 all the way up to 1770 was interracially married. They lived together, ate food together, partied together, had wonderful time together. Then there was a separation. And I had a separation even in my family. I was married to a young German woman, 46 years. And her mother didn't care how many great grandkids she had. And I have some great grandkids. But no one cared. Is that the way life really is? So what I'm doing in my work is I'm painting us together. So if you know my work, just go to artist Richard Haynes on YouTube and you'll see the work that I do. It's not anger. I've grown spiritually being here in this community, spiritually grown that I'm saying to myself, then if there's truly a God, you wouldn't really be separated like this. So I don't think God made a mistake when he created me or you or anyone else. And so we have to learn to soften our hearts. Because we never know who our angel is going to be. My angel was a little middle school Jewish woman who said to me, before I leave planet Earth, you're going to be a great American artist. I messed up in high school. She sent me to the finest high school in New York City for the arts, High School of Art and Design. I messed up. Went off to the military, and 4 years later, that woman met me at the airport and says, are you ready to finish your education now? And she says, in order to be an American artist, you need a Master of Fine Arts. I'd messed up then, but literally changed. I mean, I was a 3.85 GPA for 6 years, right on into the Pratt Institute. But I didn't find the true essence of what it is that I was supposed to paint until I made a spiritual connection, a divine connection. And I believe that my work is my ministry. That when I am dead and gone, just like we unearthed the prehistoric art, or the Egyptians and the Mayans and whatever work, is when we learn culturally about the community. And when you unearth my work some 100 years from now, you'll realize that, wow, this guy really wanted us to come together as human beings rather than color. Where the mural project started, I got a job at the University of New Hampshire in 2005. I was teaching at McIntosh College. But UNH brought me in for doing, change the words now, recruitment and access. Alrighty. But I was supposed to take care of the first gen family, but I wanted the community to be ready that as we bring this diverse populations of students on this campus, I wanted to know, where was the student body? What were they thinking? How did they feel about this word called diversity and inclusion? So we had workshops. On the weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, we did workshops, and this is where we're leading into this. Conversation, open conversation. Come, join us. Let's have these conversations about whether it's going to be diversity or LGBTQ or whatever it is. Let's have the conversation. Let us learn from each other to be able to finally express ourselves about how do we feel about this. And then after that conversation, my style of work, everyone had to design a piece that symbolizes or look like my work, right? And this is yours, Joanne. And after we all have a conversation, then the work, and everyone has to do a piece. And I've been in enough workshops where we had 13-year-olds with 80-year-olds, right? And we've literally worked together. This was in Exeter. We did it in Exeter. All right, I've done it at Exeter. I've done it at Exeter High School. I've done it at Kimball Jenkins. I've done it at Portsmouth Middle School. You name it. I've been around creating these murals and having these conversations. And so once everyone has done a piece, what we do is we spread it out on the floor, and the whole committee take a look at all of the work and make a decision on which piece would be the best piece that illustrates the conversation we've just had. And this one, Joanne's piece, is one of the piece that really worked itself out. Now, how do we also move forward? Because if we notice, hers is just the image. And as we're in the meetings, we ask people to give us one word after the conversation. And as you look across the piece, these are various words that were spoken at the very end. So you have kids who are saying community, belonging, right? Everyone gets an opportunity, and we record these words. And then at the very end, it's a way of getting everyone the opportunity to participate in the piece of work. Rather than just having one piece of work, our words become a part of it as well. So, as I say, I do this around the state. And I think it deserves to hang someplace that the public can take a peek at it just for a while. Maybe learn something. Maybe we can empower people, you know, especially the community, the LGBTQ community, to see that, boy, we belong.
I have a question for you, Richard, and what's your name again? Joanne. Why would you consider this a temporary piece, I guess?
Well, I would like it to be a permanent piece.
Just curious, that's all.
The only reason why it's temporary is because, you know, we wanted it to sort of like travel,
Around.
Okay.
you know, not only to our community, but others as well.
Yes. Yeah.
And then at the very end, it could return and hang someplace permanently here in Portsmouth.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever been to Kimball Jenkins
Yes.
Art Center. There is a, I don't know, 20 feet by 15 feet. We painted it right on the wall so it can't travel.
Mhm.
All right. But a great deal of the murals that I've done they've traveled
Okay.
already.
So tell us about the group that created this and when it was created and that sort of thing.
Yeah, so I had met Richard actually at the Pride event, not last year, but the year prior. And then we had met again at the MLK celebration at South Church last year and had the conversation. And then I said, this would be great. We had this wonderful, very fertile conversation about what organizations could connect with Richard to do this collaboration. And so New Hampshire Outright, which was Seacoast Outright at the time. South Church was another one of those organizations, and UNH. And so, so we had talked about, how are we going to, and the Youth Wellness Coalition, the Greater Portsmouth Youth Wellness Coalition, was also very much involved in that conversation. And so getting young people to commit to the weeks, it was a several week commitment that was needing to be made in order to do this. And there was a lot of buzz and interest. And then the group that came together was a little bit smaller than we had thought. We've learned, there were lessons learned in the process for us that we definitely will use to inform if we do one again this year. And so that was very valuable. I think we had five youth involved. And we had four adults, including Richard, to have those conversations. And Richard and Cynthia Velasquez worked to do the facilitation of the workshops. The young people were very engaged, and we really felt like it was a safe space for them to share how they were feeling about being part of the community. There was some really good deep sharing at these. There were 5, I think, workshops prior to actually creating the piece, which was done on the Portsmouth Pride event last year in the summer. So in terms of process, the conversations really brought about a lot of, discussions about, what images, what concepts, what words. And then there was a big creative process that happened also outside of the workshops where the young people were thinking about, well, what does this mean? Diversity, inclusion, what images would really come together. And I participated also. Richard encouraged me to participate. I did not think that my mural would have been selected, my image would have been selected. I was very honored. But this process was, the young people voted. There were some people also at South Church who were there for a committee meeting. They also voted on it anonymously. And then this piece was selected, and it looked a little different. Obviously, the words weren't on there because the words came from everybody. And then the colors were selected, but there were, and these are terrible, I'm sorry. I only had a color printer at my office, but we had these colors to work with. And so they were it was like the design was creative, but there were particular colors that we used for the process too. And the process was interesting too. There was a vellum that we had to, put this onto a vellum and project it onto the canvas, and then trace and do the outline. And so the outline was what was brought to Portsmouth Pride, and then the community was engaged in painting the piece. So it wasn't just the group who, designed and, put it on the canvas. The entire community who attended the Portsmouth Pride event last year engaged in painting it. So acrylic. Yeah.
And I mean, they were young, they were 5-year-old to
Yeah.
80-year-old, just painting on there. Of course, there was a lot of fixing up at the very end.
Yeah.
Everyone has it in mind.
You can pass these down. So these are just some pictures of the event and some of the process in the beginning, some of the other designs that I added in here as well. And
You
so,
talk a little bit about your work. What
Yeah.
are we looking at?
so when I was thinking about, what image really comes to mind, we did a lot of internet searching. Some of these are very iconic images. Like this is the Supreme Court. And if you look on the interwebs, you're going to see some iconic imagery that looks kind of similar. I did a lot of blending in terms of like the person holding the flag was a very iconic image for when marriage equality passed. You'd be able to do a Google search and see that. But these images were kind of morphed together, kind of created the flags on the back of these young people or these individuals it was hard to actually decide what flags to put together and how to blend the colors. And so that was a creative process. And the bridge really represents Portsmouth so much. I felt like it would be important to put something that really places this piece here in the city, and which I really thought was a nice way to anchor it here. You know, the hands with the rings and the bracelets kind of brings this youth vibe to the piece as well, which I thought would be important as well, because this is a youth-driven project. Yeah, a lot of rainbows. And
So where are you thinking it would go?
well, we thought the community campus would be a great place. I mean, New Hampshire Outright is housed there. That was kind of our thought. It's not definitive. Maybe it could be there for a while and then travel here to City Hall. I mean, that would be amazing if it was at the Portsmouth Library for the first month.
So it's already been at the library.
It has been at the library, yeah. And we were really hoping that it could maybe travel around to other libraries, but we just didn't have the
Well, one thing I'm thinking, Ellen and Laura, is also on the committee, and Lenny, I wonder if it's something that we would consider. We've been tasked with creating in the lobby for the City Hall chambers a small gallery. I wonder what you think about that potentially also being located there.
As temporarily or permanent?
It's temporary.
Yeah. I mean, it's a stunning piece. It would be, everybody walking into downtown would be, to the city hall would be wowed by it, sure. And then we would maybe look for artists whose work either spoke to the theme or whose color or work,
Sure.
echoed elements of that. So. that would
And
be
it doesn't have to be the
process.
first place it goes there, as especially as you said, it moves around. And I'd also ask, how are you thinking and how have you displayed it? Have you just displayed it on easels, or have you done something more permanent to?
It's been put on easels, but if we needed to attach it to the wall, it's very simple to do.
And you had spoken to Todd, I think, at the community campus, right? I think Heidi told me that they were.
Didn't speak to Todd. I think Heidi spoke to
I think
Todd
Heidi spoke to
and
Todd.
then connected us with Ernie,
Yeah.
Okay.
which is you.
But
Hi, Ernie.
But if you're gonna put it in the lobby, I prefer not putting it on the easel because there's a lot of traffic
Yes,
still.
exactly.
And you can really put it on the wall
We have a
and
hanging.
not having, yeah,
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
damaged.
Yeah. That's something that we're always concerned about in public art is damage. And so that would maybe be one challenge of putting it in this relatively small room that, because it's canvas, I assume, acrylic on canvas.
Wooden panel,
Oh, it's a wooden
yeah,
panel?
panel,
Okay.
yeah,
So it's sturdier then?
yeah.
I feel like a lot of hands have touched it already because it was a community project.
True.
I'm not feeling like,
It's not precious.
yeah.
That's true, yeah. Jen?
I mean, just because I was one of the people that wrote some of this criteria, I've just got some questions that I think for housekeeping that we just have to ask. And one of them is there a date where you want to install and then uninstall? Because we've asked for that for people to do this.
Well, I would think it would be up to you guys whether or not, when you would want it to come up and when we should take it down. I'll take your lead on that.
Okay.
Okay.
And then my other question is, do you have any, you told a wonderful story about that, and I think that this needs a story.
Yeah.
So do you have a write-up? Do you have something, because we we are in the midst of trying to create some plaque guidelines as well. So do you have a story that we could actually translate, put a plaque on and tell the story?
We
Because
can do that.
Yeah.
it's
I mean,
really
we
all,
wrote
to me,
something
it's
for
about the
the-
story.
We wrote something for the library so that they could, request approval for that. And so, but I don't know that that's at the level of detail that you might be looking for. Maybe you can provide some guidance about what exactly you'd be looking for.
Yeah.
I mean, the story you told about, the purpose of it, how the
Yeah.
community worked together, young
Yes.
people.
And that's what the library,
Yeah.
library
I
spoke
think
about it
that's-
like that.
I think that's what we really are looking for,
Yeah.
is something just like that. So very just clean and clear and short so people actually read it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And with your name as the
Absolutely.
artist, certainly.
Well, I'm not really comfortable with that. I know, I'm struggling with it. I designed the middle part of the image, but honestly, I feel like it's such a community collaboration.
But it started with your inspiration.
Well, it actually
Lead
started with
designer?
Richard's
Oh,
inspiration,
yeah, okay.
to be honest.
Inspired by.
No, and that's the thing, like I consider myself a creative person, but I learned a lot from the process from Richard, which was very helpful to me. Yeah, I don't mind maybe the design, but then also having something inclusive about like who actually was involved in the producing the piece.
I was also wondering if you were interested in some way displaying the other works that other people created in a,
It hasn't, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we have the originals. Yeah, they're just they're with the oil crayons.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we do have those. I think they're over at South Church.
Now, if people don't have any other questions, I do have on the PowerPoint our temporary guidelines and our others, just so we can check ourselves, since this is our first time through the temporary process, to make sure that we have covered all bases.
Oh, and I didn't share. I was born in this building, so.
Just make sure those was
Coles, Coles.
Yeah, we get that a lot.
This is the hospital.
Yeah, this was the.
And it's near the end, not the trolls.
Just to go over, I think I have them right here. So I asked most of the questions that we already had. The only question that we had, and we asked that people put in through a budget for that, if there's need for a budget. But looking at this, I don't
No need
think
for-
that there's a budget to be able to do that. And those are really the biggest ones that we have, the temporary ones, is really an installation date, something when you want to take it down. And the fact that you've asked for other places, we can certainly address that as far as a timeline. The other one
Yeah,
is
there's
just,
our criteria, yeah. The regular criteria.
that's the regular criteria.
Yeah.
Oh,
Whoops. A little
Can I
error.
ask a question, Richard, while I'm looking at that,
Yeah.
or whoever
Mhm.
wishes to respond? So your mural is not, it's elements of everybody coming together. So I'm thinking if we're gonna display it, is there a particular time period, like would you want it to coordinate with the LGBTQ month or the Black History Month?
Oh,
Or
That's
it's,
a good
it's
question.
broader than, but it's broader than that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the entire community.
Yeah.
It's not, a slice that gets a token month.
Yeah, I don't think it needs a
Okay.
token month.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because as Ellen and I and Maya, who's sick, and Mandela from New Hampshire Art
Yes.
Association, we're on the committee to set that room up as a rotating gallery. but
right.
We haven't yet placed a show there. So I was thinking about timing.
Yeah,
Would you prefer it be tied to a particular?
Pride Month is June.
Yeah.
So, but, we were.
Maybe that gives an idea for at least it gets installed and at least it's up through June, something like that, so that you encompass that time.
Because if there were going to be other artists, because that would take up a substantial piece of wall, but it would leave a lot of empty space for more pieces. So we would need to,
Yeah.
if it was
If
for
it
a
was
particular
there.
month or particular theme, you might want to speak to that with other artists.
That's interesting, Lonnie.
But is that, would it be possible, if you were talking about doing other places, and we haven't talked about the community campus, but is it possible to do the community campus through the time when this is ready,
Yeah.
then move it over to here and put it
Yeah,
there?
because if it's just gonna be in the gallery with our art gallery, we don't have to go through all this.
Yeah.
Right? It's just gonna be part of an
That's a good
exhibition.
question. It's a good question,
Oh,
Nancy.
I mean, we're not gonna
another-
do this for everything that you pick for that, right? So if it's going to go there.
Those will be shorter term. To TBD, that's a good point. Here, just so everybody sees, and I think as Jen said, she's talked about most of these, this is really what qualifies as temporary art.
Correct.
It's typically no more than a year. We know what the date is gonna be. We're taking it down. You're responsible essentially for it during the time and for taking it away. It's not a big deal with this. And then this goes to the next slide. It follows the criteria, the same criteria that we have for permanent art. And these are the questions we ask for that. Joanne, that's why I was asking about your artist experience.
I mean, I consider myself a creative person, but this is probably the first, real art piece that I've made of this level.
And we've already talked a little bit about the first one, the traffic patterns, the just accessibility and the context, which the context for a lot of reasons, community campus seems like because Seacoast Outright is there, lots of kids go there. Lots of parents go there because of the drop off and pickup. And rec department has been very interested and favorable toward public art and interested in public art.
If it's rotating with the high school possibility.
I think it could be. And the fact that Lister Academy is there.
Yeah.
Also is a plus for it.
That's great. Yeah, that's true.
I feel like, because it's been at the library and then community campus and then maybe City Hall, I think this is it's a community oriented piece, and I think all these different populations would really enjoy it.
So does anybody have any other questions that sparks?
How would you hang it in that space? What
At the
would,
community campus?
well, or in the space that we have?
I haven't seen the
Next door.
space.
Well,
You have hangers or?
Yes.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
so we'll put wires in the back
Mhm.
and then it's just a matter of hanging it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we probably need two
Mhm.
rods for each side so
Mhm.
that the wire would be balanced, because otherwise it would be cattywampus
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
quick.
As somebody who's hung a lot of Richard's work, you're pretty good about
Yeah.
making it easy to hang.
And there's another sort of hanger you can put on the back and just one nail in the wall, and then you don't have to see all the hooks. And it doesn't really damage the wall. Of course, you're gonna have a nail in there. But I can always put some spackle over it and walk away with it, yeah.
So for our write-up for the council, it sounds like people like the community campus, but also want to suggest rotation to other sites, possibly the high school and possibly the gallery.
If you go to Exeter High School, they have a wonderful exhibition now there were two artists, I was one of them and another artist. And they've done it, they have it in the library and out in the hallway up the stairs. It's really quite nice.
Anything else?
So there was some discussion at one point about, are there other materials that go with this? Or is this a standalone?
Oh, you mean the discussion around the photographs and the process?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we could put something like that together, maybe something like a photo montage or something with a little write-up.
Mhm.
You could also have something on the park website that people can view.
Mhm.
That's right. I mean, we would put the same write-up, we could put the same write-up on our website. And the other thing that would be useful is the same thing could go into the city's newsletter. So to have that write-up, I think we'd get a lot of use out of that.
Thank you so much for letting us come and present this.
This is wonderful.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. It was really a labor of love, and Richard really spearheaded this so much because I was singing in Scotland with Voices from the Heart when this was created. So I didn't get to participate in the painting part of the process, and I was missing every last bit of it, even though I had a wonderful time. But this year we had talked about, if we're going to be doing this again, start a little earlier to get more young people involved so that we have, maybe 20 different images to choose from. And so starting it maybe around right after MLK Day, and doing that recruitment then. Okay.
All right, I think we're good.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's really cool.
It is.
Is that a Lionel Lovelace? Is that a Lionel guy?
No,
No?
no, this is a Richard Haynes.
Oh.
I didn't want to buy his anymore. My kid said, wait a minute, Dad, you spent $75 to $100 a bow tie monthly, Dad. So they gave me a Singer sewing machine for Christmas. I don't know what they're gonna give me. Singer sewing machine, Joanne fabrics like you won't believe. They were going out of business. And a bow tie pattern. I could make a bow tie in 20 minutes.
I'm so glad I asked.
I knew there was a story behind it.
There's always a story with a creative person.
Yeah, there's always a story.
Okay, all right, let's, Lohango Gateway Park, and turn this over to Ernie in a second. Next time, we will have, Kate has arranged for someone from DPW to come and talk. They are gonna put some parking spaces in along the end, and they'll talk to us about that. The council did approve CJA's bench and legal support for it and placement. So she is now in the process of doing the deeper work on design so that it can be manufactured. And we have Public Works is going to replace the Endeavor sign. They are creating that for us for free.
Wow.
They have the
nice.
ability to do that based on the exact design that is there. Yes, it does. So Bernie, why don't I turn it over to you to talk about fundraising in the maquette, and we've got some
Okay.
photos.
Okay, great. So we're moving along with fundraising. I just got news when I arrived tonight that we had another $10,000 from the Sawtell Foundation, the Joe Sawtell Foundation. So we're up to $57,250. And we've been working very hard on that along with Judy Miller and Nancy London. And we have some good potential, in the pipeline. And we're also kind of waiting, we're gonna have the maquette probably by January meeting. We'll be able to bring that in and show it to you.
And we've got some photos.
And we have some photos of the process that I thought were interesting and that we'd share. The maquette he's making is gonna be half size, but he said he can also print out a smaller version, which, we can use if you're going to meet with a potential funder, you can bring that in. So I just thought this was so interesting seeing, he sent along these pictures from his process. And that wasn't the start, it was the start, go back to the.
And I
Because
just
he-
selected some where you begin to see how he's.
Yeah, like, it almost looks like an insect.
Yeah.
And
Anatomy.
yeah, I just thought it was really interesting, he's forming it out of clay. Now I asked him, I said, now she's gonna be clothed, and he said, yes. She's wearing, a Native American dress. But I just think it's so beautiful.
You can start to see the face.
Yeah,
It's amazing, isn't it?
and yeah, it's really cool. And that she's standing on the turtle and that's the urn filled with water. And that was, he had changed the design on that based on input from the Pulios.
I know, it's got an explanation.
Okay,
So,
so
yeah,
those
just
are the,
like-
yes, so it's coming along, it's
Exciting.
it is great, and it's exciting, and you know, again, you know, we're just working hard on the fundraising, and thank you, Lenny, for a couple of ideas that we followed up on, and we'll see what happens. Anybody else has any, you know, if somebody you think might have potential,
Yeah, and you don't
We're-
have to be the one that asks, but.
yeah,
Just to think about people we might not have thought about or businesses.
Have the
we
McSherry's
might
been
not
asked?
have Thought about. They haven't been asked yet,
Okay.
but they're on our list.
Okay.
yeah, yeah, so that's, yeah, because we're not aggressive about the fundraising. There are many good causes to donate to, and we recognize that. And but you know, if you have anybody who has an interest, we want to find people that it's, you know, it's a really, they're passionate about it, you know, interest in art, connection to Portsmouth.
And, you know, and Ernie made this point the other day. Some people, of course, have turned us down, but they're interested in the park. They may not like or resonate with this piece, but they want to be kept up to date or asked again because they know that we're creating other things for the park. So it's okay also to turn us down and create the knowledge.
I'm sure you've done this already, because of the subject matter, there's gotta be, somebody from the charitable foundation looking to support
Well, that's
diverse stories or specifically Native American in terms of like grants. I'm sure you've looked into that.
Well, we haven't found anything yet.
Well, but
Did you speak to an officer?
well, she's talking about a different thing. Some of the funds we've gotten have come through the charitable
Okay.
foundation. But have we tapped them for their funding yet? No, and I think maybe now is the time to do that.
And I just thought there would be a lot of grants specific to, you know, Native American. And I haven't been able to find them. So
Yeah.
if anybody has any ideas on that,
And sometimes at least one person has said, well, if it was a Native artist.
Right,
I would get
right.
to it. And, you know, we do, because it was a competition, we didn't go to solicit a Native artist, but he has then reached out to Native
Right.
folks to be a part of it. So that also is a little bit of a,
Yes, because otherwise we could be taking funds away from
That's
an
right.
actual cause.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
I think he's researched pretty in depth. With
right, but it's still not.
Yeah.
He's
Right.
not,
no.
So,
okay.
so once we have the maquette, we're working now on a plan. Once we have the maquette, you know, how can we get out in the community, maybe some educational programs, and that kind of thing, because I think it's going to excite people when they see it.
We actually do with Maquette, how do we get it to people?
well, we can put it in the library, for example. And that's why Ernie said he'll also do us some smaller pieces.
Are the maquettes for sale? Like somebody, or it's just if somebody donates, they get a maquette?
No.
It's just,
It's for casting. It's a model for then he'll create
Half-size one, I mean.
a half size, yeah.
I mean, do they ultimately go to a big donor or what's that?
We did, you know, with Endeavor, we did,
said maquette.
Yeah.
It can be
the Endeavor,
displayed.
we gave our larger donors it was like an acrylic paperweight that had the design inside it. And then it was inscribed. And so, you know, we haven't really gotten to that point yet.
Okay.
I don't know if it wasn't cost prohibitive, maybe that is something we could do.
Yeah.
And total we're looking to raise is
125,000.
125.
And does that include money set aside for continued, like any work that needs to be done?
Well, it's a bronze,
bronze,
so there's gonna
okay.
be very little.
Oh,
that-
very, yeah, that's true.
That's what.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
It's just the CIP money,
That's
Yeah.
our CIP money.
Okay.
since you're in year 3.
Yeah. The maquette, Lenny, it's an interesting question. With the models for the burying ground, we use them for different presentations, and then they went to the cultural center afterwards. It wasn't nearly as large as this. It was, model layout. But, we might find an appropriate place where it would be able to be displayed then.
There was also one for the Portsmouth 400, the North End one. There was a small one made for that too, and I think a large donor ended up getting that, somebody who gave a bunch of money.
I think it could be a hook somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
I
know.
wonder how much it costs, because he said he's gonna, make some, a 3D print. I don't know how the process is, but I wonder how much those things cost, because it could be a
Yeah.
really nice,
We could think about that.
yeah,
It's a good idea.
yeah.
Especially now with 3D printers. It's not gonna be made out of bronze and cost a little. Anything else on Nebby?
I think that's all I
Okay.
had. Oh, you know what? Did you want me to share this?
Oh,
The,
yeah.
yeah, this is we're, coming up with sponsorship opportunities in different categories. So I'll just pass this out, and if anybody has any, thoughts, anything we're missing, we're trying to come up with whatever we can.
Yeah.
Let us know. I mean, you could get back to me after.
Yes. And this is where the little maquette.
Very much.
Bank of America was involved with the 1200. Do you still have your contact there?
So that was probably, Susan Labrie gave us her contact list. So,
We'll have to look at that.
yeah,
They
Judy was
like
working
to-
on banks, but
You think they might, okay. That's good, Beth.
They literally have all the money.
You're pretty community oriented too.
That's right, they have doors, they have
Yeah.
mine, they have.
so
And
I'll
there's a lot of
check who
banks.
the contact was and then run it by you to see if
Yeah,
it's
I-
changed.
my team isn't in New Hampshire, but I know some of them. I
Okay,
just remember seeing them at the dinner.
Yeah, that was.
They have like, thank you, that sounds good.
Spiraling Serenity, I can't believe we haven't been together since that time, but, it was great that everybody could participate in all the activities. Monty has had a lot of photos, which the city has, and video, Nancy, I think that you took. We've shared all those with Vito because he was interested in those. And his talk, I think, was
great.
was really great. We don't have yet, but I will send him an email and remind him. We don't have the text of his talk, but I know several of you were interested in it because he had so much good information.
It's beautiful.
And he said he would give it to us. He just fell in love with Portsmouth. I was able to take him around to some of the different venues the next day, Jimmy's, 3S, et cetera, so he could get a flavor of Portsmouth. And the next day after the dedication, several of us went to a meeting that he asked, and Sean really helped to put together along with the chamber, where he could pitch this idea of a festival of artificial intelligence in the arts. And Nancy, you were there. Jen, Ernie, mainly the people who were there were technologists that, and people interested in technology that Ben had brought together, including a woman who is in charge of AI New Hampshire. Who knew, right? And I think we all came away fascinated, but knowing that we couldn't do it on his timeline. But tentatively, we said we would consider this for 2027. And he is since then, and I just looked at this yesterday and I will send it to everybody. he has started an AI and the Arts Digest, which features different artists who are using artificial intelligence in different ways. And they're fascinating varieties.
And if you follow him on LinkedIn, they will come to your feed. He's an interesting guy.
What's it called? Art and AI Digest?
AI Art Digest. And there have been 4 issues so far. Each one features a different artist. And I think it helps me understand better than I could understand from him the variety of ways that people are using artificial intelligence to create art. And he made the big point of it's the human coming together with artificial intelligence. It's not, it's artists still creating. It's not replacing artists. It's how artists are being inspired by artificial intelligence. So this is the goal that he has of bringing a festival here that they are doing this summer in
Puglia? Is it Puglia?
Puglia.
Yeah.
Puglia.
Yes, where he's from. Yeah.
That
I still offer to go.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Your bags.
Really.
so we
Here's
want
bags,
we
really.
want to see how that goes. But the artists that I think are being profiled here are the artists that Sotheby's identified as like the leading international artists with artificial intelligence. So
Is the only way to get the digest following him on LinkedIn?
no,
Following him on
I
LinkedIn?
just
So you
I
can just
just-
go online and see that?
yeah, I did.
Probably.
He must be on Instagram or, I mean, he must have a website or,
Yeah,
I know he's got a website.
I'll just forward you.
Where did I send that to you?
No,
Came directly. to you?
Yes, it came from his assistant.
Okay.
And
Right.
I'll just forward that link.
They really want to come back here.
They want to come back.
Oh, yeah, he does.
Yeah.
And he came on a freezing cold,
Oh, it was
inhospitable
really
day,
bad.
so
Yeah.
that's amazing.
So, more to come. More to come, but I think it behooves us to pay attention to it because I think it could be a really interesting thing. I think it was pretty exciting to the people who came to the meeting. They had really good questions. They were not like, yes, let's jump on the bandwagon, but I think there was this sense of this is a different way to think about AI, and it would have a broad appeal. Something that we convinced him that we don't need to draw tourists. You know, for Puglia, it's a tourist draw, and so the city is helping to sponsor it. That's not our goal here. We have enough. But to do something that is for really residents, for artists, for branding. And the chamber is clearly very interested in it as well. Very interested. Okay, the flash vote. We sent this out. Does anybody need another copy? Several of you gave good feedback, and then Ernie pulled together the feedback, and then Ernie and I looked at it together to kind of round it out, and we're kind of excited about asking these questions, but we wanted you all to, if you had a chance to take a look at it, to see if there's any, before we give it to Monty.
My one, I think they're great, and I love the way you winnowed them down. My one thought was the first one. I like the, what is your opinion about public art? But I thought the lead-in sentence was a little, I just wasn't sure it fit because we're so much more
Okay.
than seeking private funding.
So we should say a little more about it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
either that or keep it simple and start with, what is your opinion about public art enforcement?
Yeah, I think we were trying hard. I get what you're saying, but we
Yeah.
were trying hard to get that private funding message
Yeah.
across.
But that's only a
yeah,
small portion
yeah.
of what we did.
Yeah,
And they've never, maybe people haven't ever heard of Park yet, so.
right.
But other than that, I really like him. I like the order too.
I do too. I have one suggestion, and that is just to swap the word tourist for visitors.
Yep.
catch.
That's good.
Tourist almost sounds.
Yeah.
Derogatory. So
People have a knee-jerk reaction to that word.
And we do get lots of visitors who aren't tourists.
Exactly.
What if the lead-in sentence said something like, Portsmouth Public Art Review Committee oversees public and private funding for public art in Portsmouth, just something like that.
something about what
Yes.
our mission is, yeah.
Do we need to define what public art is for people who don't know? And what we mean by public art?
I think we don't need to do that here, but we could do like a link to public art or a link to our website on here.
Or we could just say art available for everyone to access or something like that.
Parentheses, public art.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just.
It is an assumption.
Yes, that-
Yeah.
right, that everybody understands what that
Public art,
means.
right.
Right.
Do we have the definition on the website? I think we do,
Oh,
don't
we
we?
have longer info,
Okay.
but
Could we link to?
and we could link to it, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question. On number 3, it gives some, what should be the next priority. And Prescott Park is B. Is there a lot of room for public art in Prescott Park? Is that a place that we're targeting? I know we put that piece on Pierce Island. Are we targeting Pierce Island? I'm just curious.
It's a good question. In the plan, in the vision for Prescott Park, there is some room. I wouldn't say there's a lot of room.
No.
Yeah, so I'm just,
Then maybe it should
I'm
go
just
at
not
the bottom
sure.
of the list
because
rather
people are
than
thinking,
number
oh, we're gonna
2.
be putting all
Yeah.
kinds of public art in Prescott
Maybe
Park.
we
It's
should
not a
say
lot of
Pierce
room.
Island instead of Prescott Park.
Mhm. That
Also,
sounds
we
better.
had Talked, we had Terrence in here talking about Van Mall, but that's not on the list for public art, so I was curious why it wasn't.
Well, what do people think about that?
I'm sorry, say again.
On Mall.
Not long
Van Mall.
ago, we had Terrence in here talking about,
Yeah.
he was kind of talking about
That's right.
landscape design and Van
Yeah.
Mall and possibilities there, but
I
that
think that'd be a good addition.
Yeah, I agree.
Wasn't we have the other in there for F? But they don't have the opportunity to put that in there, correct?
Yeah, they do.
Oh, they do? Okay.
Yeah, each of these, I mean, because you can do limited, people can type in just in a limited way. That was the intention of any of these others, that they would type in.
But I like the idea of us giving some suggestions, because I think if it's so broad, people are gonna be all over the place with it. But if they know that Park is targeting some areas
Oh,
already.
absolutely.
But I think it's important that it not be, just downtown or just Pierce Island, because people say, oh, well, it's the
Mhm.
places that have all the money or that.
Well, we have skateboard, Sherburne, rail trail.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's my
Housing
point, like,
project,
someone might
that's-
say.
actually no
"There's
place in
nothing-"
downtown on there.
Mm-mm.
Prescott Park.
Well, I was thinking about Hanko Gateway Park.
Well, Von
this is
Mall.
Leading.
Yeah, I was
Right,
gonna
Von
say,
Mall would be, yeah.
My point is that I was trying to make was that there might be some areas where there's a lot of people that gather as a community, but that are underserved by art that we don't stop and think of.
Good West End,
I'm so
kind of
sorry.
broad, but that's up and
Maybe
coming.
where the senior
Yeah.
activity center is or where
Public
the.
land
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah,
The Crossroads houses, I mean, places that are underserved that no one's gonna put public art there because they're not of high economic value or the houses are downtown.
But don't you think the other gives them the opportunity
Yeah,
to say
yeah.
that?
And this is one flash vote. It's a first one. There can be
Right.
others. If we decide some of that feedback needs to be refined, you could do a second at
Yeah.
some point.
I think it makes a fun flash vote, so I think it would be
Absolutely.
popular.
And there's only 5 questions. It's really quick.
How does it go out?
If you're a citizen, you had the opportunity to sign
Sign
up
up
for
for it.
flash vote, and then you get an email. And I don't know if there's a new opportunity to sign up. If you
They put
I
it in the
bet there
newsletter?
is.
You put it in the newsletter,
It's
It's
usually in the
super
newsletter.
fun.
yeah,
Yeah, it really.
You know,
is.
because you get the feedback after they,
I think
if
you
you
can still sign up.
participate,
yeah.
they give you the
can.
feedback,
Yeah.
including
Can
all
on
the
the city's
comments.
website.
Yeah.
Sign up, yeah.
Yeah,
Sign up, there's a link to how to sign up on the city's website.
it doesn't happen that much.
No.
I
No.
haven't,
No.
They're like
They're
5 a
good.
year.
Yeah, I think it costs money.
All right, so we will These are good suggestions. We will put these in and give it to Monty. Yeah, Ellen.
Sorry, my phone was ringing and I wanted to turn that off. On number 5, public art that reflects current social values. Is there another way to say that maybe? I'm not sure that some people will understand what that means. We all do.
Like,
I
put an
don't-
example maybe, like e.g.
Such as, yeah,
Yeah, we could do an EG.
I think that
Uh,
might help.
That's a good idea.
Like you do a kinetic sculpture and then it says motion, so
Yeah.
that helps people
we
understand.
could do something like democracy, dare I say.
Well, we have the, say equality.
Well, I mean,
Equality.
we
Yeah,
also have the art through history mural. That's a little, it's not current social values, but.
yes, it is.
History's a-
Yeah, this is true.
They're imprisoned women who miscarrying.
Some things
Yes, it
never
is.
change.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, we don't want to sound political because
And can somebody say something about the Sherburne School Housing Project? I'm not sure I know anything about that, and I wonder if other people,
It's a Portsmouth Housing
It's Portsmouth
Authority,
House.
they're
Site.
taking over the school and turning it into.
Lister School.
not
The
public.
city, the
Cities.
city is leasing the property, the
Yep,
school and the property behind
Did
it.
you like that?
yep.
I think there was an article yesterday.
Yeah, there's so many out
In
there.
that case,
Just haven't caught up on my.
I have another suggestion. Instead of saying housing project, maybe
Yeah.
say workforce housing.
Yes,
Because Sherburne School Workforce Housing,
I like that much better.
because,
Housing project has a different connotation,
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
especially
That's
those of us who grew up in around big cities.
Yeah.
Housing projects are not, yeah. Okay. Anybody else with any questions about wording?
Why don't you send me those and I'll just double check that out.
Sitting in Portsmouth
Yeah.
House, but-
That's what I'm sticking in my mind.
Yeah.
Okay, so one more thing, and well, two more things, but the last one will be very short. Nancy and Ernie, the trust. You sent us the documents.
Yes, so we incorporated everybody's suggestions. And then we also added a FAQ sheet, which basically summarizes the longer documents.
I think the FAQs are great.
And I came up with those, and then Ernie read through them and gave me really good suggestions, like make it consistent with the actual application, Nancy. So I did that. And so that's what you all have right now. Everything has been updated and edited.
I had only one thought on an FAQ because it comes up so often, and it's an easy question to answer. People might ask, is a match required? And a match is not required, but you could even answer that within another question, but because that's such a frequent thing with this type of grant, I think make that clear, we're not requiring a match, right?
Do you want me to make the edit, or do you at this point just want to make that edit? You have the documents.
I can make that edit.
Just to,
And I just thought maybe we needed to emphasize public art more, like
I
in
agree.
in the so I could just
okay,
make, like put, instead of just art, put public
Public
art.
Yeah.
And then the funding, I think, getting into 10,000, we'll be giving $10,000 or less. The application fee for 10, some little
Yeah.
specific on that. But I can make those,
okay.
get that out.
But I think we're ready to go,
Great.
so.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm just trying to
Sweet.
reduce the amount of time it goes back and forth again, so.
So I guess the next question is, how can we, because we've got the materials, it's really about starting to get a mailing list together. And then maybe I was thinking of maybe meeting with Monty and Stephanie just to inform them about it, because they'll be putting it in newsletters. And actually, the other thing, we should touch base with Christine at the library, just so
Yeah.
she has.
That's a good idea.
But what are your thoughts about what steps we should, how we can help, what steps we should do next.
Well, I think Nancy did what she called
The outreach.
the outreach plan.
Yeah.
And then we were also going to reach out to the Clipper Foundation.
Right, we
um,
didn't do that yet.
To get some,
Oh.
yeah, I was kind of, once we finalized all of this, I was gonna send it to Christine and then your contact at the Clipper Foundation.
Yes, that's good.
Just.
Yeah, she
if
was
could-
excited about.
Yeah,
collecting.
yeah, if she can
That's great.
go over that.
But you've laid it out really well. It feels like, yeah, I know there's groundwork here, but we know what to do. It's almost like a checklist. We could divide and conquer some of these things to do. Do you think we should plan for that now, or do you want to go through some of those steps first? For example, do you want somebody to start the direct outreach contact list?
If somebody
Just so-
wanted to do that, that would be,
Just so we can hit the ground running.
that would be great.
And that's one of those things that somebody can start and we can pass it around and add to, because different ones of us will have different contacts for these.
Yeah, so in the outreach, if you look at the outreach plan, there is a lot of we have to start creating a contact list. So if anybody,
I probably don't have the contacts that everybody has, but if they send them to me, and that way we wouldn't have to go through Sean if you just send them directly to me, and I will get the
You
list
could- You
going.
could start doing a file.
I
for
will
us.
absolutely get the file
Okay.
going, if
I
that's
think
fair.
a good way to do it. And then you'll weed through duplicates and.
Absolutely. So I'll just go, if you just send them to me,
Okay.
Yeah,
that way I'll be happy to do that one.
because once we have that and we have the press releases, we're really good to go.
And are we looking to have this done by the January meeting?
It'd be nice. We had said to the public, we were gonna try to launch this. By now. So,
Everything takes longer than we
I
expect.
know.
Everything.
But I mean, it gives us a month.
Yeah.
And I know the next 2 weeks are kind of, so it gives us 2 weeks in January.
Yeah.
1 week, because that first week's.
Well, it's the fourth Wednesday, gives you about 5 weeks.
Yeah, 5
Yeah.
weeks.
Okay. I think
That's true.
I think that's a good next step. While you're making those contacts, we can all be trying to get that list together.
And just send them to me and I'll hopefully have a list we can at least send out before the next meeting.
And would you take on meeting with Stephanie and Monty, or
Sure,
informing
yeah.
them about it, and two of you
Yeah.
maybe?
Be here.
oh,
She wanted
But you
to
can do
via
it
Zoom.
virtually, just so
I'm gonna do
they're,
it via Zoom. We
all
can.
right, okay, then I can do,
Just copy me on that.
yeah,
okay.
they should be well
Stay.
informed.
Stay dialed in.
But then I really think we're good to go. Okay. All right, I know we don't need another
But, dot, dot, dot.
However,
May I ask a question? Cause I kept coming up with the same question over and over. When I went through the 400th anniversary education public art trust frequently asked questions, I kept circling that where it said programs that reflect the history, heritage, and cultural identity. That's in number 1. It's again in number 3. We keep coming back to our history, culture, or I had 2 questions. Artistic traditions. Who decides that? How is that defined? I mean, we could talk about maritime, we could talk about, the hits, but
It'll be up to the applicant
Fine.
to
Yeah, I
convince
think
us.
when they participate, then we can talk to them about that and bring that.
so we don't have a predetermined check
No,
box.
this
that-
really
We did have a review.
But this comes right from the mission of how the
Yeah.
trust was set up.
we look forward to 400.
Yeah,
History is such a prominent.
yeah.
So
I don't seem to have a copy, but we did have a list of, maybe I do.
And the other question I had was on the page about outreach plan to attract applicants. Who we talk to, one of the emails go to is, public and private schools, universities, local nonprofits, youth serving organizations. So let's say there was an artist who was not part of a nonprofit or worked in Button Factory, worked in Art on the Hill, worked in the Safeway place, it was just an independent artist, are they not able to apply?
They can apply, but they have to be working with, in some way, a project that fits these, with a K to 12 students, a collaborator, a partner, or
So
something.
they could be an independent artist who wants to work with it. So then I looked at, down below, it says we're gonna send it to galleries, and I thought, well, a lot of galleries are for profit, they're not.
Right, but they'll spread the word. It's to spread the word.
Okay,
That's where I think individual artists might find out about it, through the state council, through different ways. Just like we do with the sculpture, you ask everybody to pass it on as
right.
much as they can.
I was thinking of someone, well, just take, for example, Jeffrey Cooper, who's on the arts and culture, he does these beautiful wooden sculptures that are in the children's library, but he's an independent artist. Perhaps he belongs to a nonprofit, but knowledge.
Belong to one,
No.
they just have to partner with one
Okay,
in some
right.
way.
Yeah.
I think it said individuals, didn't it?
Yes, so Jeffrey, he wouldn't be eligible to like just do something in his own studio. But if he came up with a project working with students or something
I see,
on a
okay.
public art project.
Okay, because I read it as you had to already belong to a particular association. I thought, boy, that's gonna cut out.
No, look at the.
No, but you
use
have
the
to have plans that you're
eligibility.
going to
Gotcha.
work with
Yeah.
some sort of student
Gotcha. All right.
on
thank
some
you.
level.
Thank you.
If you look at number 2, the question under applicants, individuals collaborating with such entities.
Okay.
And often in those cases, even if the individual sparks it, the organization might be the applicant. They
Okay.
wouldn't have to be, but they might be.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Those are all good. Those are the kind of things that are important to make sure, like, we're all familiar with, Stephanie and Monty are familiar with, so Christina's familiar with, so anybody can answer that question.
And one key group might be like artists that already have their public art in Portsmouth. And they might want to, like Terrence Parker, he might want to do something with the codfish, that an educational program with that. I mean,
Maybe
Yeah,
he and
we'd
Jeff
encourage.
Brewster could do
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
The
So,
history of.
so we'll send it to, we'll send it to Terrence, just saying,
No, I like the idea of spreading it widely, but I just was like kind of hung up on, did they already have to be part of a nonprofit? So I understand better now. Thank you.
Okay, one more thing. Do we dare?
Yes, we do dare.
I was just in Colorado over Thanksgiving, and so because I've been to the Maine Botanical Garden in Colorado. I took our grandkids who live out there, and they have them out there. And
So here's the deal.
How much is it gonna cost us?
That's the problem.
That's a big question.
We have a new deputy city manager, as some of you know, Carl Weber. And Carl came to Sean and me because he was very excited. I believe his brother lives in Rhode Island, and Rhode Island has made a real investment in these trolls. They have like 5 or 6 of them that they do want more tourists. And so they have used them as a draw for tourists.
they're all in different communities.
Yeah, and there are a lot of them are along the water in Rhode Island, which is very cool.
It's the Ocean State.
So Carl, and as it turns out, the artist, Thomas Dambo, is married to a woman who's from Portsmouth.
Portsmouth, they graduated from Portsmouth. He's Danish, but
Yes.
his wife graduated with my son from Portsmouth High School. Alexa Piarski.
It's a small world.
I know, right?
look at this.
Trolls in New Hampshire, yeah.
I mean, people go to states to see the trolls.
So he wants to
Yeah.
get a troll in every state. And
Wow.
Portsmouth, he would really like to see the
Can we
troll.
please put him under the bridge?
That would be perfect.
In the water.
There's a bit of a bridge over to Pierce Island. There.
Well,
Sagamore Creek, where the forests are.
so how many do you want?
How much do they?
They cost between 150 and 300,000. Now, Sean and I both said to Carl, we are raising money for Bohinko Park. We have a lot on our plate. And Carl said, well, I'll take it on and I'll make some contacts to see what is possible. So have you heard any more from them?
I think there would be some excitement, though. This is very different from that sculpture.
wellness.
This is like,
And this
you
is
know,
made from
wellness.
recycled materials and he recruits volunteers,
So
labor.
very cool.
It's a whole,
So it's a
whole
community kind of
that
effort.
builds.
Okay.
That's
Right,
right.
so that's a different animal.
He makes the heads in Denmark in his workshop and then
Okay.
brings the heads over.
So so I'm glad you all know about this. You know, we just said to Carl, we can't take it on right now, but you know, we know people will be excited about it. We have a lot of ideas. He wants to go to, and I won't name them here because he has some large corporations in mind who he thinks for whom this might be an appropriate
Yeah.
thing.
Absolutely. Definitely.
And I would just like to say that tourism is way down.
It really
The
is.
numbers are down. So some people might not like having visitors, but like we need them because our nonprofits are struggling. So it's wonderful to have something to
Yeah.
bring people here, whether people like it or not, like we
Yeah.
need it because
Yep.
it's very, very, last year and this year have been very slow for.
So if you, you can easily, you know, Google this and you'll find, they're all, as you know, they're all over the world. There's a world map
Oh,
of them. There are all kinds of
wonderful.
books about them now, so.
But it increased the attendance at the botanical gardens.
Oh,
I mean, they
yeah.
were always busy, but
Oh.
now it's like
Sure.
on everybody's list of things to do.
So,
There you go.
Well, they paid for those because they have like 6 or 7.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, my husband and I've got.
Yeah.
Big donors.
There's
I
a
think
lot of.
they have a lot of money
in
there, a
Maine.
lot of old Maine
Just
money
A lot
there.
of money in Maine.
and they're, but I do believe they're corporately the number of them are corporately sponsored. I want to say Bank of America might have been one of the sponsors. We'll have to look up those sponsors and see. But anyway, Carl is working on that, but we wanted you to know about it because obviously it would dovetail with what we're
So cool.
Yes.
And I think, except for public comment, are you here to do public comment? Or are you here to just listen?
I was invited by Sean.
Oh,
So listen to Sean for inviting me.
To listen, oh, okay.
No comment.
No listening, right?
Maybe the skate park is a good place for this. It seems, I don't know why that comes to mind for me, but it just seems like the vibe from, especially the one all the way on the left there, would be, you could just see that there are a lot of young people who would think it would be really cool to have a sculpture.
By the rail trail or the skate park. I agree with you, Ellen. I think that could be a really interesting place.
There are bridges.
Yeah.
You're on those
Obsessed
bridges.
with having a troll under the bridge.
Yes,
how long we make that.
To the high school and it's near my house.
I think that's a good question. Some of them are fairly,
Oh, they're huge.
it's all weathered looking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Look at how tiny the
we could have
people
one
are.
in Pierce Haven.
They are.
because
I
then
know.
You have to go through town.
Wow, that's exciting.
A
And
troll trail?
A troll trail. A troll trail. I love it, Sean.
So, but think about this. We're talking about
Presentation.
finishing Bohinko Park. We're talking about trolls. We're talking about AI, this festival. So
I just have one little thing, really quick. The woman who did the presentation a while ago, of the flower garden mural.
Oh.
Yeah.
I bumped into her and she's probably gonna come back to us with a different idea of, doing some work on the bridges over by the rail trail.
Oh,
She's a muralist, right?
Yes, she's a muralist,
Okay.
yes.
all
I,
right. And
By the rail.
we.
Okay.
Haven't heard anything more from them.
Anything more
Yeah.
about that? Okay.
I think I scared them.
So.
well, she's just working on something and I had bumped into her and we're chatting.
So you'll get a draft of, you know, what we've done this year. And we will try to get some things to you, Jen,
Yep, please.
contacts. Did we have one other thing that we were going to do? No, I think we're good on the flash vote. And I will send you all a way to get this AI in the arts. I'll send it to Sean,
Yep.
the link that I had. And with that, have a good holiday.
Yes.
Yeah, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
Second. Jen and
Doesn't matter which way.